So of course, pretty appropriately, two of the biggest heavyweights in enterprise software decided to make an announcement last week. Both Salesforce and Workday decided to announce a joint AI employee service agent. It's interesting to see because obviously we know these two vendors as serving honestly very different parts of the business, and the fact that they are willing to work together is both interesting and perhaps a little concerning, a little confusing. What do you think about it, Charlie?
Well, I don't know that I found it either confusing nor disconcerting. I think that it is very emblematic of where this is going. We've been talking about this for a while now, that people like Microsoft have 130 co-pilots, and everyone and their brother has their own version of an AI agent of some form, all the varying degrees of sophistication. And the great challenge is we're seeing these stovepipes develop where, if you're an employee in this environment, it's like, well, what the heck do you use? And in the end, the ultimate goal, I believe, is that every employee has their own personal co-pilot that is trained on exactly all the aspects and facets of their job and can answer any question they need answered. So this idea of these two very large players who represent a very large swath of the enterprise workflow coming together to have a unified agent experience makes a ton of sense. What I'm slightly so I should say, I'm going to put a period there because that
Okay.
makes sense, and it's I understand why they would do it. What I think is interesting about the announcement, I think there's a little bit of making hay involved, in that they're touting things like Salesforce has what I think they call it the zero copy policy or whatever, where this idea that we want data to stay in place. And what I find most interesting about it is that any good copilot is going to be able to leverage APIs, to leverage a mix of generative AI and RAG and other modalities to connect to data sources and to perform this function. I don't know that I fully understand why I would need to have a quote unquote partnership between Workday and Salesforce to accomplish this, or that it in and of itself is anything special other than a marketing sort of ploy. But if you're a customer of one of these two companies, which obviously most enterprises are, and this represents a huge chunk of sort of the employee experience landscape, I can see that it makes a very easy entryway of saying, oh, use this now unified agent, and you have access to this huge swath of CRM and customer data and employee data, or finance data and employee data from Workday. And it's like, I think that makes sense, but I'm not sure that from a technology perspective, it's anything earth shattering.
Yes, I'm interested in seeing how this integration ends up taking place. Traditionally, Salesforce, of course, has been a gigantic ecosystem play for a long time, where everybody links to Salesforce data in some way to support their sales, service, or marketing. But Workday has been more of a standalone software platform for the most part. It's harder to find applications that are directly built on the Workday platform that have grown to significant scale. And seeing Workday partner more closely with Salesforce, I think is a step towards the direction of Workday trying to figure out how to become more deeply engaged with the rest of the enterprise. And this idea of bringing sales and HR data together, I feel like that has been a holy grail goal for the enterprise for a really long time, trying to figure out how to bring external behavior and internal behavior together to get a holistic view of the business. And although that has been a very straightforward goal, it has also been very difficult to actually achieve in practice. If you ask me right now, how do my HR policies affect my sales efficacy? I don't really have that answer. I have the sales operations data, and then I have all this separate stuff around HR policies and payroll, and maybe training, and maybe some learning and development and improvement data, and maybe some succession strategic data as well. But those two don't really come together very well. I'm curious to see if there end up being either efficiencies or eureka moments that come from bringing these two sets of data more closely.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that we're going to see that. I mean, I think if they do go that direction, and in effect use this to create an abstraction layer, then this will be noteworthy. I'm not convinced that that's what this is. I think this is just a kind of a universal access plane. And I think it fits very well with, I mean, Workday made it very clear earlier this year that this is the direction they wanted to go, that they wanted to be more of a platform, that they wanted to be more of an enterprise player and to play nicely in the sandbox, which was obviously a shift from some of their previous positions. So I think in that regard, this makes sense and it's a smart move for Workday. I think it also speaks to a degree to some of the challenges that Salesforce has had in executing, insofar as, if you remember, Benioff was on stage, I think it was like 4 years ago, touting some of this sort of capability that using Einstein, you could ask it questions. At the time we were using like Alexas. And, and it looked like this whiz bang, and of course it never really lived up to it. And so I think, I think this is also an effort to finally make progress on all of this. So look, I think it's positive. I think it's good. I think we're going to see a lot more of this sort of stuff. I'm not sure it's all of that at this stage, but I think it's a good step and indicative of where things are going.
Yes, I do think it's a little ironic though that Salesforce pretty much bought Slack to do this, to create this overriding UX that would give you access to all of your big applications, including Salesforce. And now they're able to do it, but Slack is really an afterthought in creating this employee service agent. Probably Salesforce, I'm sure, will correct me if they think I'm wrong about this one. But to me, it really looks like this is more based on other AI services. Workday has been working a lot with Google's AI. Salesforce, of course, has a lot of its own AI capabilities up above and beyond Slack and Tableau and all the other traditional analytics and messaging stuff that they have. So I'm interested in how some of that knitting happens as well. But it's starting to look like Salesforce had the right idea with the Slack vision, but ironically isn't really using Slack as a platform to end up getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a whole nother separate conversation. I think the Slack of all of the acquisitions, Slack has always been the one that I felt was most misguided. But all